Tayyibahi, Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. So we'll continue our lecture. Let me share my screen. Namahi, the recording is started. So I have started the server, okay. So where did we leave yesterday? We left at the styles, right? We said we will discuss about the styles, right? So we have our app now. We are able to remove the to-dos now. So this is what we discussed during the last class. We discussed about this function here and why we have to wrap this in a new function and why we should not write it directly like remove to-do. Okay. So now we will look at the style. Okay, how to add styles or CSS to a React app and the different ways of doing it. So right now, if you see, we have an input button, and previously it was big, right? It was big, but now it's normal because we removed that style actually. So let me come here. So we have this input button here. So we have some class name. Let me remove that as well. We'll come back to the classes once again. So to add the styles, what I can do is I can use the style property, okay, or the style attribute. Namahi. Float bracket, no. Return statement, it's only this round bracket. There's no floor bracket. This one you're saying this. Yeah. Yeah, for example, here if you see add to do, right, this is something fixed, right? But let's say that this text, right, that is going to be dynamic. It's going to be based on a variable, okay, which is going to be defined on top, let's say. So const button label. So if you want to use that variable here, then I have to use a floor bracket. Like this. This is going to be dynamic now, meaning it's not fixed, right? Whatever is whatever is going to be the value of this variable will be appearing on the screen. So general rule would be, if you are going to write some JavaScript code, right, or if you want to do something dynamic, then you have to use this floor bracket. And between this floor bracket, you can do any you can write any JavaScript code as long as it results to a string. We discussed it in the first classes, I guess. Between these two floor brackets, you can write anything, any JavaScript code. The only condition is that it has to result to a string at the end, so that it can be displayed on the screen. Okay. That's why I'm using a floor bracket here, because I want to write some JavaScript code inside that. Okay, in this case I'm just using this variable, okay, so nothing else. So I have to use this floor bracket. So if it's not going to be anything dynamic, or in the sense it's not going to be anything related to the code, if it's going to be something fixed, right, in this case add to do, there's no need to use that floor bracket, okay. No, it won't show error. See, if you are going to use floor bracket in this case, this is going to be an error, because now it thinks that you are trying to use some variable or something like that. So what you should do, you should do like this. You should wrap that inside a quotes. This is fine, because now you are giving a string actually. This is how you define strings in JavaScript, right? For example, this is a string, right? What you are doing, you are wrapping that inside this double quotes, right? You don't do it like this, right, without the double quotes. Can you do like this? No, right? You should put a double quotes, right? Likewise. Okay. Yes. And why we are using double quotes in this case? Because once you use the floor brackets, that is going to be JavaScript. That's not going to be HTML or anything like that. It's going to be JavaScript inside these two brackets. So you have to follow the rules of JavaScript. But if you remove the double quotes, if you remove the floor brackets, right, that is not going to be JavaScript anymore. Here you can write normal text like in HTML, okay. So this is also fine. This will show in the screen what it will show with double quotes on the screen. See, it says add to do with 2 double quotes. This is fine, this is valid actually, but we don't want that, okay? Yeah, but if you're going to use that flower bracket, then you have to follow the rules of JavaScript, okay? So for us to style this input component, we can use the style attribute. So here you see we have the flower brackets. So what I have to do is I have to use an object, okay? Let's first look at what we do in normal HTML. So HTML styles, what we do there, we give a string there, right? Like this. We have this property value separated by semicolon, right? For example, let's go here. You see, that's this body tag, and we are giving some style for that. So this is a property, and that should be the value, and we have to separate them. If you're going to give more than one styling, you should separate them using the semicolon here, right? So we have black background color. Let's say I'm going to change the color as well. So color is going to be, let's say, red. So it's like this, okay? So you see that's a string right here. This is a string which follows a particular pattern, right? So you are separating different styles by a colon, semicolon, and every style, right? Every property and style should follow this pattern. So property name, colon, and the value here. So, but in React, right, what we should do, you should pass an object here, okay? So whatever CSS that you are going to write should be inside an object. So it's like this. So now let's say I'm going to increase the font size. So font size is going to be 20 pixels, okay? And let's say comma, the color is going to be, or let's say some padding, okay? Padding is going to be 10 pixels. So I have added 2 styles, okay? The first one is the font size, and the second is the padding. And if you look at this is an object, right? This is a JavaScript object, right? So and JavaScript objects, we separate that key value pairs using the comma, right? So here using comma here, okay? And let me save this and see what happens. You can see the font size is increased and also the padding is added there. So generally you have to give this as a JavaScript object, okay? And since this is an object, right, it gives you a lot of flexibility, okay? For example, instead of fixing this, right, like 20 pixels here, I can use a variable here, okay? For example, I can say font size, input font size is equal to 20 pixels, and I can refer that variable here, okay? Input font size. See, I'm referring that variable here. This is also fine. Same output. Yeah, so you can do a lot of stuff actually. So this gives you a lot of flexibility, you know, since this is a JavaScript object, right? You can do a lot of things, like you can refer a value, you can call a function here. For example, let's say, let me write a function, okay? Get font size. This is a function which is going to return my this variable here, okay? So I can call this function here, okay? Get font size. This is also fine, okay? Or I can do what? I can even instead of writing everything like this, I can store this entire object in another variable, and I can use that object here. Let's say what, Ashi? 1 minute. What did you say? No, okay. So here in this case, what we are doing is I took that object, okay, that entire object, and I am storing that in a variable, and I am referring that variable here. This is also fine. Okay. So it gives you a lot of flexibility, okay. So what we are asking, okay? Yeah. Yes, you have to call, right? Because if you don't call the function, what we are doing is you are assigning some function to this property. That's not possible, right? That's not right, right? Can you, what should be the variable value of this font size? It should be some string, right, or some number, right, like this. But when you do like this, right, this refers to a function. So can you assign a function to font size? Does not make any sense, right? That's why if you try to run this, you will definitely get error like this. See, the font size is not applied actually. Let's see if we have any error in the console. Okay, there is no error in the console, but the font size is not applied. We expect that to be 20 pixels, but this is not 20 pixels. This is normal 12 pixels. Reason is because you are not calling the function. So you are assigning some function to this property, which is invalid. So when you call the function, you are assigning this value here. When you call this function, right, that function is going to return this value, and that is going to be 20 pixels. So you are assigning 20 pixels for that font size. So you can see that on the screen, okay, 20 pixels. No, 22 is not calling. We are not calling here. This is the function definition. This is how we define arrow function, right? See, this is the same as saying this. Is this function calling a function definition? Yeah. So line number 22, we are not calling it. We are only defining the function. Yeah, this is function calling. Yeah. Okay. So this that's another possibility, is that you can just store this entire object, okay, in some variable, and you can refer that variable here. Okay, that's also possible. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. Okay. Yes, we are referring this variable. Yeah, this is referring the variable. Yes, here we are referring the function now. The function is defined on the top, line number 11, and we are just referring that function here. This is not calling. Calling is like this. Okay. So this is how you add styles. Okay, using this style attribute, you can add CSS to your app. Okay. Now we can also add styles using a class name, right? In normal HTML and CSS, if you have an HTML element, then you can either use a style attribute, or you can also use it class names, right? So let's look at that. Okay, how we can do it. So for that, what I will do is let me remove this. Okay. So right now, if you see, I have removed all the styles. Okay, so we don't have any styles applied now. Now what I can do is I can use some CSS file. Okay, so right now if you see, there's already a default app.css file. Okay, so I can come and write my CSS here. Okay, so let's say input font size is going to be 20 pixels. This is normal CSS. Okay, so I have saved it. Nothing happens. Why? Because we have separate file, and that file should be included in our app somewhere. So if you see, we have the app.css file, but I don't think it's included anywhere. Yeah, it's not here actually. Generally it would be here, but if you see that app.css file is not imported anywhere. Okay, so if you want this CSS to be the part of the final bundle, we spoke about the bundle, right? Webpack and bundlers. So we have different files, right? We have different components, separate files. So finally what we do is Webpack, right? Right now if you see, Webpack is running here. Webpack compiled successfully. So what Webpack do? It takes all these small files and it will combine them together, okay, to give the final bundle. So this is the root of our app, right? This is the base component, right? From this, everything else will be included. So what does Webpack do? It will come to this file, okay, first, and it sees that there's this component, and it will look at these lines here, okay. So it will know that this app component, it depends upon these components as well. it depends upon this logo, it depends upon use state and use effect, it depends upon the to-do list component, likewise add to-do component. So what it will do, it will come and import, it will add these files or these components as well to the final bundle, okay. And when it goes to this file, okay, phone. Can you hear me, Afi? You can see my screen as well, right? Because I accidentally pressed on flight mode. Okay, screen is also visible, right? Okay. So, so when it comes to this root component, right? It knows that these components have to be included in the final bundle. Okay. So it will also go in. Then what happens? It will also go inside these files as well. Let's say it's going inside add to do file, and it will look at their dependencies as well. And here if you see, we have included this line number 4, right? We say that we need this app.css file, okay? So this will be included in the final bundle, meaning this app.css file will be included in the final bundle, okay? So if you are writing some CSS here, right, then if you want those CSS to be included in your bundle, then that has to be included somewhere in your component, okay? So that it will be ending up in the final bundle for sure. So right now we have our we'll see. Yeah. So right now if you see, we have this app.css file and we have written some styling there, and we have included this app.css file inside our add to do component, right? We have imported that here, okay? And since this add to do component is included in our app.js file, okay? So we can make sure that this app.css will be part of our final bundle, okay? So these styles should be working, meaning I gave the font size to be 20 pixels for the input element, but let us see. It is not working, right? So there's something wrong. Let's try to see what happens. Let me try to debug that. So we have the input here, okay? Styles. See here what's happening. See, that app.css file was included actually. That's why you're even able to see this here, okay? But it says something wrong, right? Invalid property value. That's because we gave it like this, 20 pixels. This is not right? This is okay in JavaScript. But in CSS, we don't do like this, right? We just say 20 pixels, right? Without that opening and closing bracket, right? Opening and closing quotes, right? So now if I save this, you can see the 20 pixel got applied actually. So now if you see, it's valid now. So you see the text is also big, okay? So it's working now. The reason is because we have included this app.css file in this component, okay? In this add to do component. If we remove that, then the styles will be gone, because that CSS file will not be a part of the final bundle. So you see, you don't see any style applied there, okay? So this CSS file should be included in some file so that it will be part of the final bundle, okay? So that's the first step. And now if you see, okay, that's one thing, okay? So this is how you can add CSS to your file, okay? To your React app. So you can come and write any CSS that you want. Okay, now if you see, I have given for that input, right? So what I can do is, I can come here and I can say, I can add a class name for that, okay? Class name. So I would say add to do input. So this is my class name, right? So I'm saving that. So what I can do is I can use this class name and write my styles here, okay? Because this input now is a very generic, right? It's going to target all the input elements. I don't want that. I want it to be specifically for that add to do input only alone, okay? So let me add to do input. For that, the font size, let me increase that to 32 pixels. On it, yeah. So the font size is 32 pixels, and let's say the padding is going to be 20 pixels, okay? Let me save that, and you see it's nice right now. We'll keep it. Okay, so how it's working, we have defined a class here, right, add to do input. I am using that class name for my input component here. Okay, so it's working. Okay, so that is how you add styles using CSS style sheet. So what we are doing now is we are having a separate file, and there we are using all our styles that we want, and then we are using the class names. Okay, but let me show you one thing. So here we have this button, right? So let me style this button as well. Okay, so what I can do for that, I can use the button tag. Okay, so I'll come here. I would say button is going to be, let me say the padding is going to be, sorry, the padding would be 8 pixels. Okay, and the color should be the background color. Why it's showing, this should be semicolon, right? The background color should be green. Okay, green. Okay, and the text color should be black. Okay, that is by default, right? So let me save that. Okay, now let's do one thing first. Let's keep the text color to white. So color should be white, and also we have some border, right? That we are going to remove the default border. Okay, so the border should be 0 pixels. Now it's fine, but the problem is even these buttons, right, they are also in green color, right? What is the reason for that? The reason is I'm using this button tag, right? This is going to select all the buttons, right? This is going to apply these styles for all the buttons, right, that are present in my HTML file, right? So what I can do, like I want these styles to be applied only for my add to do button. So what I can do for that? Yeah, so I can do to I can define a class like this and just use that class name for this button, or I can use an ID for that as well. So ID is also possible. Okay, that's also possible, but there's a third way, which is to use a CSS module. Assalamu alaikum, akhi. Yeah, you can listen, akhi. So let's see, whatever you are able to understand, you can understand. But if you don't understand anything, then you can just rewatch the lecture. Okay, this class and the previous class, inshallah. Okay, so what we are discussing regarding this button, right? So this style is going to be applied on every button that is on the screen. Okay, that is on the HTML page. So that's why these buttons are green. But I don't want these things to be green. I only want this add to do button to be green. Okay, so for that I can do what? Instead of writing like this, I can write a class name like that. Okay, and use that class name in my add to do button here. Okay, or I can use an ID for this. This is a normal solution, but there's a third solution which is called CSS modules. Okay, so what is the meaning of CSS module? Meaning that we are going to write some style that is going to be applied only for this component. Okay, so right now if you see this add.css file, right, whatever style that you write here, right, this will be available for the entire application. Okay, so what I can do is I can make this app.css file specific for this file alone. Okay, or for this component alone. So how can I do that? It's very easy. I just have to do one thing, which is just change the way that you're importing. So in line number 4, this is how I'm importing, right? Import add.css, right? Instead of importing like this, what I would do is I would say import add to do styles from this here, like this. So if I import like that, okay, actually I made a small mistake actually. Yeah, so here, right, this one, right? Here what you're doing is you're using this button, right? So this will anyway target everything, okay? All the class, okay? So but let me say one thing. Let me keep it like this, okay? My button. So you see I have defined it as a class now here, dot my button, okay? Let me save that now. And if you see everything is gone, right? That style is not applied to any button, and the reason is because I have defined this dot my button, and I'm not using this class name anywhere, right? So I have to use this class name, okay? So for that, what I have to do is, okay, let me keep it as it was before. This is how it was before, right? So I have to use my class name here, whatever class name that I gave there, like this, my button. Now if you see, this button is green, okay? But these buttons are not green. Why they are not green? Because we have not used this class name, we have not attached this class name for those buttons, right? So let's try doing that as well. So I'm in this to-do list component. So for these buttons as well, let me add that class name, my button. If you see, these buttons is all, they are also green right now, okay? But let's say that I want to use this class name, okay, my button, but for the same class name I want different styles to be applied for these buttons, okay? In the sense that as long as my files are concerned, right, this button will also have the same this name called my button, and also this add to do button, right, they will also have my button, okay? But the style should not be the same, okay? It's like saying okay, let me give you a normal example. Let's say that I'm having a variable, right, like new to do, right? So this variable name, now I'm able to use it inside this component, right? Will I get any conflict if I use the same name inside this file for some other purpose? The same name, to do, new to do? No, right? So I like this name, new to do, so I'm using it here. So I want to use the same name in some other file as well. So if I use it, I won't have any conflicts, right? Because they are different files, right? Likewise, let's say that that's a class name, okay? That's a CSS class name. I want to use this same class name at multiple places, but I don't need any conflicts. Right now, if you see, since I have used the same name, right, at here and here, and in my style sheet, I have given like this, all the buttons are appearing green like this. The reason is because of this name, actually. So can I do something like this, like okay, my button, let's say the background color is going to be red, in the sense that for the buttons that I want to remove, right, this remove button should be in red color, but this add to do button should be green color, okay? So can I keep like this? Will this solve the problem for me? Let me save it. No, it's not solving the problem for me. Everything is green, red now. Why it's happening? Because of the specificity, right? This will be overwritten, right? We have defined some properties in this line number 6 with this class. I'm overwriting the same class, okay? So this red color is now being applied on every button. So my requirement is that I want to use the same class name, okay, but different styles, okay? For that, there's a solution called CSS modules, okay? So what I can do for that is, let me delete that. So here, right, when I'm importing that CSS file, I have to change the way that I'm importing it. This is like a normal import, okay? So what I will do is I would say add to do styles from this. And when you import like this, right, you are importing that as a module, okay? So what happens is, so once you have imported like that, I can't just use it like this anymore. Rather, I have to use in a different way, like this. Here what I would do is, whatever name that I have given here, add to do styles, right? Add to do styles dot the name that you gave inside that file. my button. Okay, dot my button. For I think you can't. Okay, so my button, right? Now this, if you see, is a hyphen, right? So you can't have hyphen. So if you're having a hyphen, right, you can't write it like this. Actually, this will give you an error, right? Because you can't use hyphens in objects, right? Object names. So what we are doing, this is an object now, okay? When we import like this, right, this is going to be an object, normal JavaScript object, okay? And that object has a property called my button, okay? So how do you access the property name? Dot, you will use a dot notation, right? But since we know that that's going to have a hyphen there, you can't use a dot notation now, rather you have to use a square bracket notation, okay? Okay. Now let me save this. Okay, it's my button. Okay, I think then we can't use this hyphen here. Let me change that. Okay, maybe I think that's what's giving the error. So let me change that to my button. Now, okay, because if you're using that square bracket, right, you have to use the double quotes. So between those two square brackets, you either have to refer some variable, or if you're going to use a string, right, you have to use a double quotes only. Okay. Well, now it's not working as well. Okay, I think what I'm missing here is, I thought it's enough if I just add it like this, okay? It's enough if I just import it in this way, but I think I have to define it as a CSS module explicitly. app.css.module. Okay, so what I have done now is I have changed that name to app.module.css, okay? So since I have changed the module name here, I have to come here and I have to change it here as well. app.module.css. Now if you see, it's successful, and you can see the button is green now. Okay, so let me explain what I have done so far. I think I could have confused you. So the first thing is I changed the name to module, okay? It was app.css before, but now I changed that to app.module.css, okay? That's the first thing. The second thing is I changed the way that I'm importing it, okay? Right now importing as import some variable name from that file, okay? This is the second thing. Now what happens is that whatever style that you have written inside, right, whatever class names that you have used here, right, all these things will be available as key names or properties inside this object. So now this add to do styles is going to be an object which is going to have these styles, okay, as values. So what I will do now is I will come to class name and I will use those things if I want it. Okay, so add to do styles dot my button. Okay, now if you see here, right, what we are seeing is we are seeing this green color here. Okay, and what is the style, what is the class name that I use inside my file? It is my button. So that's a class called my button which has some styles there. But if you look into the to-dos list component as well, there as well I am using this my button class, right, the same name. Okay, it's my dash button, right? Let me change that. See here, this is my button in camel case. Here also my button in camel case, and inside my CSS file as well, my button in camel case. But if you look on the screen, right, only this button is in green color, even though we have applied the same class name for here as well. The reason why it's not applied for this is because we have declared this as a module, okay? So this will be applied only for this component here. And if you inspect, right, so what is this doing here is, when you do like this, right, in this way, you are adding some hash or some unique value in the beginning. Let me show you and let me inspect this. See here, if you look at the class name here, right, what does it say? It says app underscore my button underscore q7i something, some random value, right? But did we give that give it like that here? No, right? We gave some meaningful name, but finally if you see, it's appearing in a different way actually. So what's happening here is what's happening here is that we are simply kind of generating some unique value, okay? Even though the name is same, at the end, right, that is going to be give you a unique value. This is going to result to a unique value, and that is why that style is appearing for this button, but not for those buttons. Because for those buttons, see here, what are the class names we have? We have my button. We have my button, okay? We have my button but for this button, right, it is something unique actually, okay? And this unique class, right, and if you look at the style sheet here, that unique class now has all these styles that we defined, okay? See, app my button underscore q7 something. No, this will be done by Webpack. Yeah, Webpack or React, I guess. So using CSS modules, you can write styles that is going to be specific for whatever component that you are using it, okay? So I can write some names here, okay? And I can write the same name in some other file as well, and there won't be any conflict. For example, okay, let me change this app.module. Okay, let me bring this file inside here, okay? And let me change the name to add to do dot module dot css, okay? So right now we have a to do file, and we have the css file, okay, which is going to contain the style for that component. So let me import it here. This should be add to do dot module dot css, okay? So that's going to contain my style for this add to do button. Now we have this to do list, right, this component, right? Let me create a separate style sheet for this component alone, okay? So what I can do, I can say to-dos dot module dot css. So this module, right, this css module will contain the styles only for this component here, okay? And the names can be different, okay? It doesn't matter actually, the names can be different. It's just that you have to import this file inside this component here, okay? So here I can use the same name, my button, and I can say the background color is going to be red, okay? And what I should do, I should import this module inside my to-dos list component. So import to-dos style from to-dos.module.css, and I have to use the same way, okay? So here, instead of doing like this, I have to do what? To-dos styles dot my button. Let me save that. Here you see, these buttons are red and this button is green, even though in the style sheet we have used the same name, my button, my button. So at the end, right, what we have done is that by way of using CSS modules, we are able to create style sheets that are going to be specific for whatever file, whatever component that you are going to use it. So here I am importing this module inside this file, okay? So it's going to be specific for the components in this file alone, okay? So like this. Previously it was one global style sheet, but now what's happening is we have created a separate style sheets, okay? So even if I use the same name, right, there won't be any conflict. Okay, so I hope you understand, right? And here you see now what is the, this is called CSS modules. If you just search, right, CSS modules in React, you will get this. add a CSS module, so style sheet writer. So you'll get a lot of articles you can read. Okay. See, we have written as modules to-dos dot module.css, right? Yeah. Yeah, in that case, it's the same actually. If you, for example, if you're going to use the same todos.module.css here, right, then it's the same as using a normal one single style sheet. There will be conflicts and there will be overwriting. So if you're using the same name, right, whatever is coming second, that will be that will apply. Okay. So inshallah, I hope you understand this. If you have some confusion or whatever it may be, what I would say is just go and read in the net. So definitely I think you will understand it now. And secondly, as we do more and more styling, right, you will understand this in the best way, inshallah. Okay. But I think this is enough for today, inshallah. We will see tomorrow. طيب إن شاء الله سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت